Welcome back to Roadmap, Auto Trader UK's product and tech podcast. Today's episode is all about career development, and specifically AT's DTA, Diverse Talent Accelerator, program that we've been running for a few years now. To help bring this subject to life, I've got three brilliant guests. I've got Helen, the D&I and Community Engagement Manager and Facilitator on the program. Blooming heck, that is a lot of words there, Helen.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for coming along though, Helen.
Thank you for having me.
And much easier titles, I've got two of our senior techies that have actually been through the whole DTA program. I've got Alice, the tech lead. Hey, Alice.
Hi, Pete.
Hi, Alice. And I've got Jason, or Jason, depending which way, which day of the week it is. And Jace is a senior developer.
Hi, Pete.
Hiya. Oh, thanks for coming along. So, it is a bit of a it's one of those really important subjects that the minute you get onto it, I'll get all not weepy, but all gushy about it, because I do love the whole DTA program and the concept about it. But obviously, I've not been through it. People I work with have been through it. So I want to start with Helen to sort of kick us off and give us a bit of a background on what DTA is, why we set it up, and maybe what your role is in it. And then we'll hand over to you guys, because you've actually been on the program, and get some of your first-hand experiences. So over to you, Helen.
Sure. Thanks, Pete. So I guess, as you mentioned before, career development and personal development is a huge kind of thing to Auto Trader. And our overall D&I strategy, are one of the fundamental elements of our overall diversity and inclusion strategy, is about having a representative workforce across the whole of the organisation, including leadership as well, with a focus on women, race and ethnicity, disability and neurodiversity, LGBT+, age and social mobility. Now, when we look at the representation of our leadership team in particular, it's probably not as representative as we'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Women, we're pretty representative when we look at our board and our OLT, really representative. But other areas of diversity, not as much as we'd like to be. So that is essentially why we created the Diverse Talent Accelerator program. It is kind of what it says on the tin. It's a program to develop high potential individuals in their mid-career, to create that diverse pipeline of future leaders. Yeah.
Cool. So two future leaders on the couch who've been through it. So from your individual perspective, I'm going to start with Alice. Like, what attracted you to apply to the DTA program when it was launched? Was there something where you were like, this is really something I want to do, or did someone recommend that it's something you look at?
No, I found it myself. I was probably midway through being a senior developer at the time, and people were starting to expect me to come to these big scary rooms full of big scary people and contribute, say my opinions, and no one had really shown me what that was like or how to do it.
Yeah.
And then I saw the DTA description, and there were modules on them that were like, find your voice, and understanding your authentic leadership style, and that just really resonated.
Right.
I thought, that's someone saying, yeah, we know you need these skills now, and we're going to take you on this journey to do them. And I looked around as well, and I didn't really see myself shining back as a leadership in tech. I was different. And here was someone saying that you can still be you, because I didn't want to compromise that. But you can still do the job that other people are doing.
Right. Cool. That's interesting. And what about yourself, Jace? Anything that Alice said resonate with you, or was yours different reasons?
No, absolutely. Same as Alice. Like, I found it by myself. It kind of came up through emails. I've also heard other people talk about it. And for me, I was in a professional role. I was a professional developer. I was working my way up to senior, and I was checking all the tick boxes to get myself to that position. But when I came across the DTA, it seemed like a good investment to sort of widen my skill set, and all the skills that Alice just mentioned then. All the modules were kind of laid out, and they all sounded great.
Cool. And before you actually went on it, because I know there's a whole application process, but once you were accepted, I know. But I mean, I actually find the application process fascinating. It's something we'll probably talk about. But so you were then going, great, you're on DTA. What was the feeling beforehand? Was it like apprehension, nerves, skepticism, like with Jace? Or was it like, I can't wait? Well, how were you feeling before you actually went on that launch first day?
Definitely a mixture of feelings. Definitely excited. I was excited to sort of meet new people from around the business, from different roles. In my group, there were plenty of people who had not met before, plenty of people who had met before but never worked with.
Yeah.
In terms of nerves, like being a developer isn't my first role. Like I kind of did an apprenticeship before becoming a developer. I did the Auto Trader grad scheme. So like those sort of programs are fairly similarly structured.
Yeah.
So I didn't think anything was going to catch me off guard. But at the same time, I didn't really know what to expect from the DTA because it's such a fresh thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing quite like it, I guess.
Yeah.
A little bit skeptical because I didn't really know what I was going to get from it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to learn. Was I going to take away anything and apply it to my role?
Yeah, I've got a couple of people who have gone on this year and they're really excited, but there's like, what am I actually going to get? And now they've been through the first few modules, they're like, oh, I can see these things are starting to like buzz in my head. But like, yeah, before I move on to that, what about yourself, Alice? Just before, a couple of weeks before, and how were you feeling about it all?
Yeah, so their answer for me needing help in a big scary room was to put me in a bigger, scarier room full of people I didn't know, and just sort of let us at it, which, worked in the end, but I was absolutely nervous. But there was something else, I wouldn't call it excitement, but probably like an eagerness.
Yeah.
Like when you've just got a new job and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this new job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a new challenge, and I was all for that.
Cool. And Helen, obviously, on the other side of the fence as a facilitator, I know, again, there's a lot of like, we're rigorous with the applications, and there's a bit like making sure people are ready for it. But, just before that first cohort, the next cohort comes on, how do you, as the facilitators, feel? Are you like, actually, because of the due diligence, you're like, oh, this is going to be great? Or do you also have is this the right mix of people to really gel? How do you feel?
It's exciting for us as well, to be fair. Like, each of the cohorts are always really different, and we do try and mix the cohorts up as much as we can, in terms of diversity and representation, but also in terms of areas of business that people work in. And I think that is really important to have that diversity in each of those cohorts. But yeah, it's super exciting for us. Like, I guess a lot of work goes into the program before we launched it, and then continuously. So it's always it's an exciting feeling for us, and kind of the day when each of the cohorts starts. It's great. It's great, and we work super closely with an external D&I consultant, Fiona. Who's working with us and each of the cohorts really closely throughout the whole journey. And it just feels it's exciting. Yeah, it's exciting to bring everyone together, and for us to kind of be with each of yourselves on the journey as well, and get to know people as well. It's great for us to get to know people and work with them throughout the process.
So how many cohorts so 2 questions. How long has it been running now, and have you been involved from the beginning? And then probably the last question is, how many cohorts, including the ones that are on, are either mid-program or been through it? Sorry.
Right.
Shall I wind those questions back?
Question 1 first.
So how long?
My brain can't take it all.
I'm gonna repetute with loads of bullet point questions here. So, like, how long has it been going? So how long has Auto Trader been running?
Cool. Yeah. So we've just started our 3rd year of it now.
3rd year.
Yeah. But there's a number of different, so how we split it up basically, we were quite careful when we first launched the program to not have too many people on each of the cohorts. We felt like that was quite important to ensure that we've got like that group that feel comfortable with each other, because it is quite personal, isn't it? You're sharing personal experiences and stuff.
Lots of nodding.
Yeah, lots of nodding. So the first year that we launched, which is the year that Alice was on, we had 2 cohorts.
I didn't realise you were in like the first round.
First round, yeah, and you were cohort 1, were you? Yeah.
Big time.
and our first 2 cohorts had 15 people on it, but then we got a little bit of feedback, and feedback is super important for us, right? Like to kind of always try and make these experiences better. So one of the pieces of feedback was that the groups were quite big. Unfortunately for Alice, or maybe fortunately, the first year that we did it was all virtual, wasn't it? So it's quite a different experience probably for Alice.
The COVID years.
To Jason. So following on from there, we did like reduce the groups to 10 people, and then this year they're actually 9 people, but it's just worked out as 9 people, not through kind of any purpose.
And so when did you go on it then, Jace?
So mine started last year, June 2022.
Right. So you came out of the programme the back end of, or early this year?
Early this year, January.
Right, cool. I didn't realise you were on that. I assumed you were both in like cohort 1 and 2. Didn't realise. Should have done my due diligence a bit more. Cool. So going back to your like the personal journey. So again, like I'll go to Jason first. So as a delegate, was there particular like aha moment like during the program where it's something just like clicked in your brain, or there was a particular statement made that you're going, that absolutely resonates with me?
Yeah, I think there were a couple that come to mind. I think Helen touched on this a bit earlier, but like if you look at the upper levels of the business, there is a lack of diversity there.
Yeah.
And it's super important for us to have those role models there, and I think it's excellent what Helen's doing with her team to sort of like take the right steps forward, and it gives us an opportunity to sort of because not having role models can be a barrier for a lot of people. I think I kind of came to the realization that I could leverage the DTA to actually become a role model to help inspire others.
Nice.
So that was a good thing that came out of it. The other thing was during the program, I definitely did a lot of reflection during exercises that we did and workshops, and getting into groups and discussing experiences. And I would reflect on sort of different points of my career and think about what could have gone better, what were the good things, what were the bad things, what could have gone well. Someone might have discussed something similar that they went through, and they've come at it at a different perspective, and I've made me think, oh, okay. But essentially, reflection is something that I've taken away. Like, I was doing it before, but I feel like I realised how powerful it can be.
So it's like from being like sort of something that you maybe were doing by accident.
Yeah, exactly.
To like actively thinking, need to reflect on this. Yeah. That makes sense. And what about yourself, Alice? Seeing as it's so long time ago.
Oh, you always remember your aha moment.
Mine's about 50 years ago.
Can I have 2?
You can have as many as you want.
Okay, so the first one was we do this like leadership course kind of near the start, and as part of that you nominate like I think it's 7 reportees and people you work with to give you feedback.
Right.
And I was, nominating controversial people I thought were really going to bring out my bad points and make me improve. And I was expecting the worst, like to see all my bad days reflected in this and every time I'd ever slipped up. And then I read it 3 times. And it was lovely. It was absolutely lovely. And people had really taken the time to like write extra bits about how I'd made them feel as someone that they worked with as their manager. And I just remember thinking, wow, maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do this better, and I'm already doing it all right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that was one that will always sort of stand out for me.
Nice.
And the second one is probably more near the end. It was on the offsite. We went on an offsite, knowing nod.
Yeah.
And you do this sort of speed dating-esque feedback situation where you have one-on-one time with everyone in the cohort, and they give you personal feedback about their time with you throughout the DTA. And I've always been a really quiet person. I don't often speak up in new situations. I don't often speak up in big situations, or I haven't done at that time. And people always say, you should probably talk more. And you're like, yeah, but do you really mean that? Like, are you just saying that because I'm quiet and, I've not filled my quota of words for this meeting? So
I love
it's
the way
really...
Your mind works, that's brilliant.
It's really hard to take that on board sometimes, and it just feels disingenuous. So there was a running theme through my feedback at this time of, you should probably talk more. But it came with a bit extra because these were people who'd now experienced me throughout DTA, and the times that I had managed to say something, they were impressed by, and they were telling me that these were great experiences for them and they resonated with them. And at the time I was saying how they felt and it meant something to them. And I remember thinking, okay, so it's not just that I should say something because people want to know what I have to say. And that was really powerful.
So it's not just like filling the goldfish bowl. Interesting. Because I was thinking, because I've known you both since you started Art Trader, and I think thinking back, you were quite quiet when you joined, but now when I see you, I can't bloody shut you up. No, I'm only joking. But Helen, again, I mean, like, I went on a similar, different Art Trader program a number of years ago, and the person facilitating that, you could see that they were getting things out of the sessions. They were having their own moments, even though they were facilitating. So, again, is there things in each of the cohorts that you facilitate where you have your own little aha moments?
To be fair, probably quite a lot, actually. I think, like, for me, being able to see the journey that everyone goes through, like, for example, so Alice went on it 2 years ago. As part of the program, we bring in, like, real models from across the business that can kind of, like, share their experiences in some of those modules and kind of talking about their own barriers. Where we're at now, which is like I'm really pleased with, and it's touching upon what Jason was speaking about earlier, is we're now bringing our DTAers into the future cohorts to share their experiences. So it's kind of, as you were saying, like, creating those real models and role models from yourselves to kind of bring into our future cohorts. So that's, like, a great thing for me to see as a facilitator. But also, like, we have quite a lot of one-to-one conversations with the individuals on the cohorts, and kind of hearing from your own experiences, and, like, it's great to kind of see how people started and felt about it from the beginning to 12 months later. When they get introduced to one of the sponsors, it's great to see,
No, it's interesting because I think what you said, Jace, because again, when you started, you came in as a temp and you worked in one of the other teams, and in a way, you were also already one of those role models that, look, you can come in, do a completely different role, and then you can move because you're really good, cracking hard worker, really, like, eye on the ball, know what they're doing. Can suddenly go from that and into a graduate scheme, and then from there change roles and move into a dev. And it's interesting that you didn't see yourself as a role model, but already some of us were like, oh, Jace is really good. And likewise Alice, so I was joking about it, like, can't keep quiet, but it is like I'm in meetings with you now and it's like you can see you've always had these things to say, and sometimes your body language will be saying it, which we joke about, but actually the fact that then you can then say it, and it's like it is meaningful and people listen. So it is great to see. But I was thinking now, like rolling forward into your current day-to-day role, so is there things on the programme that you learn or experience you had that have made you think they're actually today really still with you, that on like a daily basis? So I've got an example that I know I shared with you, is on the programme I did years ago, is I have a problem where I like most people, but if I don't like someone, I find it really difficult. And it's one of the things, when you have to confess. And the facilitator was talking about the experiences that to be effective in the workplace, if there's someone you don't get on with for whatever reason, is just find one thing. And it stuck with me. So even when there's like a bad day and I'm having a bad day and there's someone I don't quite get on with and they're rubbing me up the wrong way, I just think of this one thing about them, and it sort of like dispels, and I'm able to move on very quickly. So that's my everyday thing that I still use. So is the things again that you use in your daily roles at Auto Trade, or even in life generally, that just help, that you go, I can fall back on that learning? I know it's like quite a deep question, that one.
It's a hard one.
No, sorry. Okay, Jason first. Jason, Alice is like, you're going first. That was the body language. That was the body language.
Yeah, wasn't it? I just experienced it. You didn't have to say anything. I just knew I had to speak first.
Exactly. The body language says loads.
What was I going to say? Right. So during the DTA, we had this group project that we had to complete as part of the program, and it was essentially we had to think of an idea to sort of disrupt the automotive marketplace.
Yeah.
And that isn't my day-to-day role. I don't have to worry about that. I don't need to think about the marketplace at all. So that project was something that I kind of struggled with. I kind of struggled to find my feet with that, because there were loads of people in the group who came from different roles, like RDS, product delivery leads, who kind of came in with their own flavors.
Yeah.
And they understood the market, they knew where the future was going, they knew what other companies were doing, so they were really in tune with what we needed to achieve. But from that, like, I learned a lot from them, and I guess from that experience it kind of made me realize, even though I don't really need to think about that in my day-to-day role, because by the time it gets, the big picture as a developer is kind of hidden away, and it's kind of broken down into sort of granular pieces of work that are so technically dense that you kind of forget about the why of what you're doing. But I think it's kind of helped me sort of realise that it's something I kind of need to make an effort to kind of understand, because I think it definitely has its advantages as a developer. So that is something that I'll probably take away from that. Yeah.
No, that is really, because I was doing prep for a previous episode, and it was with Catherine, and getting into like thinking how Catherine thinks, I realised how narrow I'd gone like recently on things I'm working, and that having that, being able to do that check back to the bigger picture, suddenly I was like, what these podcasts about, like what the platform thing working, it just suddenly it opens you back up. So that's really interesting that thing, it was the project that did that. So what about yourself, Alice? Is there something again in your day-to-day that you go, actually that is something I now use a lot?
It is a hard question, and there is probably subconsciously tons of things that it's equipped me with that I now use day to day that I wouldn't be able to pull up right now. But there's something a bit less tangible that does make sense to me, and that's the connections that I built at that time, and how I realised that going into this big scary room of people that I don't know can actually turn around into now there's these people and I feel like a team with them, and that makes me enjoy myself more. It makes me work towards things like the project more. So that was definitely something I wanted to bring out with me, because, you know, I definitely help people at arm's length. And if I can change and, you know, be part of a team, then that feels great. Then surely isn't that what everyone around me wants?
So I didn't think about that, like that actually some of the things you found scary you now embrace, and that means that you enjoy things more and therefore more effective. Interesting.
And I'd like to say it works. I think I've built a pretty good team now, and everyone's enjoying it. We're all collaborating, and I think it's good.
Cool, brilliant. And again, I mean, obviously, it has definitely from my perspective, sitting back and watching yourselves, it definitely feels like it's turbo boost. Like, I don't know, I used to be into like Michael Knight and Kit Car, like 1980 stuff, but we used to use the word turbo boost loads. It feels like, you know, you turbo boost forward, but obviously there's lots of people who've been through the DTA, so is there, without like going into specific individuals, but it feels like there is lots of success stories from DTA so far. Helen?
I can give you some data if you'd,
really?
If you'd like.
Have you got like your little
I wrote my data down on my hand, just to remind myself. So
you could have brought a laptop if you wanted.
A sneak peek.
So it's like, this is like exams, isn't it? Like, you know, when you had your calculator and you get your compass and scraping the...
Yeah, I can confirm I never cheated in exams.
I didn't either.
But yeah, like and this is one of the things that, you know, we probably want to be doing more. So obviously, like, sharing the success stories from DTA, and we definitely can be doing better. We're probably like too humble from that perspective, but we've seen great things. So across our first 5 cohorts, our first 2 years, 55% of individuals that have been on have had either promotion or change of role, and then in the first 2 years, so Alice's cohort and the second cohort, 71% of individuals that were on those cohorts have received a promotion or change of role. So it's great from a data perspective, but obviously it's more than the data. It's really important that we get the feedback from individuals being on the programme, so we can try and kind of improve the experiences for individuals moving forward. But we're also seeing, like, when I spoke before about like being able to now bring those individuals in as real role models, that's like super important from whether or not it's working, and it is like people are being able to bring their experiences and how they're developing within the business. So it feels great, and obviously we've got 2 individuals here that have been kind of promoted and had change of roles. So I hope that it's working, essentially. And it is working, I believe.
I mean, like,
because to get first-hand thoughts.
I mean, like, again, going back to this year's cohorts, I mean, we were advocating in the areas I work in for quite a few people to apply. I mean, it's obviously down to them as individuals, but I mean, I think it's brilliant. I mean, I've seen the difference it makes, and like you said, you two, it's like ones where you can just see that like confidence level increase, or that, I actually am a role model, and people will listen to what I say. I mean, those are powerful things, especially if you're slightly more introverted, or a little bit, I've got imposter syndrome, or whatever it might be. I think it's that ability to then go, I can really shine, but be your true self, not suddenly become like suddenly turn into me and, you know, be an idiot with a cap on. You know what I mean? It's one that it's nice to see people are just themselves, but it's like, I don't know, the way I used to describe it when we did the thing, it was called LDP, it was like putting HD glasses on. All of a sudden everything felt really bright and really shiny. So I think it's brilliant. And
as you were just saying then, it's so important for people to be like their authentic self, isn't it? Because then you're always going to get someone else, whether or not that's someone in your team or wider team or across a business, that will probably feel the same as you or relate to you in some way, right? So I think it's super important that you do kind of feel like you can be your authentic self.
Cool. Okay, so we're coming to a close. So thank you all for joining. I know it's not the easiest to come and sit on a couch and chat to me for half an hour. We had a bit of a laugh beforehand. So brilliant to hear about your individual journeys and to be super honest about it. And I'm looking forward to where you go next in your careers. So cheers to you all. Thanks, Helen, as always. You know, straight out of Haywood. Only joking.
Honestly,
I had to get that one in. She's not from Haywood, by the way.
Not from Haywood, near, but not quite.
Son of having jokes, but no, for actually, you know, giving the insight into the DTA program and taking time out. So remember, listeners, if you like it, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification button now on season 2, so you'll never miss an episode. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and that's us done. So hopefully catch you soon, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Awesome.